We shall chant from verse number 11. Avajananti mam mudhaha manushim tanumashritam param bhavamajanantah mama bhutamaheshwaram मोघाशा मोघकर्माणः मोघज्ञानाविचेतसः राक्षसीमासुरीं चैव प्रकृतिं मोहिनीं श्रिताः महात्मानस्तु मां पार्थ दैवीं प्रकृतिमाश्रिताः भजन्त्यनन्यमनसः ज्ञात्वा भूताधिमव्ययम् सततं कीर्तयन्तो मां यतन्तश्च दृढव्रताः नमस्यन्तश्च मां भक्त्या नित्ययुक्ता उपासते. So in this chapter, Bhagavan revealed his supreme nature as beyond all this world, beyond all manifestation. His Nirgun Nirakar Roop, wherein he said that nothing exists in me. Nachamasthani bhutani. But at the same time, by his own power of this Prakriti, Bhagavan says, I project this world, which is just an illusory world, an appearance. I sustain this world, and I again absorb this world in myself. Maya adhyakshena prakriti suyate sacharacharam. And Bhagavan also takes avatar as a human being, as animal, bird. Bhagavan takes various avatar. At the same time, all of us are Bhagavan only, who have forgotten our own identity. So one who doesn't recognize his own divine nature and assumes or takes himself to be a limited being is as though insulting that divinity which is there within us. So not knowing me and not knowing my supreme nature, Bhagavan says, people, foolish people, disregard me. And when one doesn't know that supreme reality, one gets entangled in the Prakriti or in that negative Prakriti, the Rakshasi, Asuri and Mohini Prakriti, which is a tamasic and rajasic Prakriti, and which is binding, which creates a false notion. It creates identity with this our body and this world around, and gives rise to a lot of sorrow and pain, and that itself is called samsara. But one who takes refuge in the positive, in the higher Prakriti, Sattvic Prakriti, what we call the Daivi Prakriti, the good qualities, good values which are within us are the expression of this Daivi Prakriti, Sattvic Prakriti. So all these three gunas are there in our mind. Our mind itself expresses all these three gunas, Sattva gun, Rajogun, Tamogun. So one who takes refuge in the Tamogun and Rajogun gets more and more entangled in the samsara. and one who takes refuge in the sattva gun becomes free of samsara. It's like a ladder. The one ladder itself we can use to go up also and go down also. It's the same ladder that takes us to the top and brings us down. Similarly, this Prakriti is like a ladder. We can come down and go deeper and deeper into the samsara, or take its help and rise to the supreme level of enlightenment. In Ramayana, Tulsidas ji calls it Vidya and Avidya Maya. So Avidya Maya is that which binds us, and Vidya Maya is that which liberates us. Sant Jnaneshwar Maharaj gives a very beautiful example. He says, if a thorn has entered our body and gives us pain, we can take the help of another thorn and remove that thorn. And when that thorn comes out, then you can throw away both the thorns. So the thorn which has entered our body and giving us trouble is this Mohini, Rakshasi and Asuri Prakriti, which causes sorrow, pain, or disturbance. Because they give rise to those type of thoughts and emotion. So it's a very complex phenomena which take place. We might say that, oh, I am doing this and I am getting this result and all, but this Prakriti plays a very important role in all this phenomena. So the choice is with us to choose the good or to choose the evil. If we choose the evil, we get bound. If we choose good, we are free. So one who chooses the good, they are called Mahatmas. So Mahatmanastu mam partha daivim prakritim ashritaha. So Mahatmas are those who have taken refuge in Daivi Prakriti. Those Mahatmas also have Asuri Prakriti, but they disregard them and surrender, take refuge in Daivi Prakriti. And the more and more we take refuge in the Daivi Prakriti, more and more we become free of this samsara. So such Mahatmas bhajanti ananya manasaha mam. So such Mahatmas, Bhagavan says, they with a single pointed devotion or single pointed attention worship me. They worship me Nyatva, with proper understanding of my nature, that I am the very source of this creation and I am imperishable. Knowing me, they worship me. Knowing my supreme nature, they worship me. See, knowledge and worship, it should go together. Knowledge, because if we don't have knowledge, then our worship also becomes incomplete. Suppose I don't know the greatness of, let us say, a great scientist. Einstein is, for example, Albert Einstein, he comes for our, just imagine that he comes. And we have to honor him. So when we speak about him, we have to speak about his qualities and his contribution to the world of science, to the field of science. If we don't know about it, or if we just know simple thing about his way of dressing, his hairstyle and all, then we might be saying something which is totally insignificant, which will not be his praise. It might be his insult only. Similarly, if we don't know the greatness of God, our worship will be very limited, will not be of the highest nature. In Narad Bhakti Sutra, Naradji gives example of the gopis. He says gopis had great devotion and love for Bhagwan Krishna, but at the same time they also knew about his Mahima. He knew that he is the very self of all being. So knowing his Mahima, knowing his greatness, they had that love for him. Because if we don't know the greatness, then we will be loving only the outer form, only the outer structure. If I don't know the deeper value of a person, then I will only be attracted by the superficial nature of that person. So this is very important. Bhagavan says, Nyatva, having understood and having gained the proper knowledge of my nature, these Mahatmas who have taken refuge in my Daivi Prakriti, they worship me with single-pointed attention. And what is their worship? What type of worship they do? He says, Satatam Kirtayantaha, constantly they sing my glories. And this is a sadhana for all of us, that we should also take refuge in the Daivi Prakriti and constantly sing the glories of the Lord. Sing the glories, as I said, doesn't mean that you have to join some music class or something immediately. Not like that. But we should sing the glory to our action, through our words, just as we sing our own glory indirectly. We indirectly or directly sometimes project ourselves. That is singing our glory only. This is my bungalow, this is my gadi, this is what I have achieved, this is what I do. But all by Bhagwan's grace, but this is what I did. So now and then we might use Bhagwan, but really speaking, we feel we have achieved and we have done. So it is our glory only we are singing. By even mentioning that, oh, this belongs to me, or he is my son, or this is this, and I have done this, and this is this, we are indirectly singing our own glory. Instead of that, we should sing Bhagwan's glory. We should be able to express in our life, in our behavior, in our attitude, that we have understood and we acknowledge the presence of God in our life. When we do it, that becomes Bhagwan's Kirtan. It is something which has to be done 24 hours. 24 hours Sankirtan. Bhagwan's Kirtan is sing his glory. Understand his, like if we look at our own body and all our the structure, God alone is expressing as life in me. So without that life, this whole body will fall down just dead. So that is also my very being alive itself is Bhagwan's glory. My talking, my walking, my thinking, my performing any action, everything is Bhagwan's glory alone. So that is called Satatam. Satat means constantly, Sarvada, at all times, one should be able to sing Bhagwan's glory, should be able to express his glory. Yatantaha Dridhavrataha, and they strive with full effort, proper effort, with firm resolve, they strive towards this gaining the state of enlightenment. See, if we are, many people say that, oh, I don't know whether we will be able to gain the state of enlightenment, how long it takes, and what should I do? I am caught up in my life and all. It depends on how much intensity you have to attain it, and how much one feels the bondage. It's like the Mahatmas give example, a person who is drowning, or one whose head is put forcibly into the water. One disciple comes to a Mahatma who was taking bath in Gangaji. He says that Swamiji, Guruji, please explain to me this mumukshutvam, this intense desire for liberation. I don't understand. What does it mean? Mahatma was very strong and powerful. He caught him and dipped him into Gangaji. And he was struggling like anything for some time. Then he brought him out. So he was stunned, like. He never expected this to be the answer to his question. He thought maybe he got annoyed by my question. So he asked him counter question, that when you were inside that water, what were you thinking? Were you observing the beauty of the water? Were you observing that river bed and all? What were you thinking at them? Were you thinking about this question of yours? If Mahatma is not answering, let me ask someone else. He says, no, at that time I was just thinking of coming out of this water and breathing. Breathing itself was the main thought in my mind, that I want to just come out and breathe fresh air. Bhagavan says that intensity which you had, similar intensity if we have for this enlightenment, then we will move towards it. Then nothing can stop us. Eh? Then we will not say, oh, so many obstacles are there, so much problem is there. Then nothing can stop. I was giving in my other class one example. If an elephant wants to move in the forest, he doesn't ask for direction. Arey baba, yahan se rasta hai nahi. He just moves, uproots. If a tree comes, he uproots the tree. If something, little thing comes, he just throws them away and he just moves. But if a khargosh wants to move, then if a tree comes, he has to then take some diversion. So we have to ask ourselves whether we are elephant on this path or we are little rabbit on this path towards liberation, the intensity. So here Bhagavan says, with firm resolve, with supreme effort, one moves towards the state of enlightenment, these Mahatmas. And namasyantyascha mam bhaktya, they do namaskar to me, they surrender to me, they totally dedicate themselves to me, they see me and my glory in this whole world and do namaskar to me. So namaskar also becomes a sadhana. Namaskar is a technique by which we drop our little ego. It is a sadhana. So doing namaskar to that divinity, expressing in and through everything and everyone. So human being, animal, plants, everywhere it is expressing. One should be able to see that divinity and should be able to do that namaskar. Not only physically, but with our speech and with our mind and with our entire personality, we should be able to bow down to that supreme power. That itself becomes a sadhana, and it's like when a little child does namaskar, immediately the elder person lifts the child and hugs him. Similarly, when we do namaskar to the Lord, He lifts us and gives us a good hug. So, namasyantascha mam bhaktya nitya yukta upasate. Constantly, such a person does my upasana. Upasana is a very a technical term. Upasana means, literally it means sitting near. Aste means to sit. Upa means near. To sit near God means mentally, physically, intellectually to feel our closeness with that divinity. To sit close to God. Nitya yukta, constantly tuned to God, they sit close. Means in and through all our activities and our day-to-day life, we should constantly feel our presence or God's presence in our life, and whatever we do, we should imagine that we should feel that we are doing it to God alone. That's upasana. And this we practice, our pujas and all are practice of this upasana. Like we take a idol and then we do the service, we offer flowers, we offer food, naivedya. This is a practice to see that divinity in that idol and then serve it. Once it is done, one once understands it, one has to then do the same thing towards the whole world. That entire world is expression of that divinity, so worship it with that attitude. Bhagwan Ramana Maharshi, he says that Jagata Ishadhi Yukta Sevanam Ashtamurti Bhrut Deva Pujanam. To look at this whole world as an expression of God and serve this world itself is worship of God. Service of the world is worship of God. But with the attitude that this world is God. If the attitude is different, then that is not service. If attitude is that, oh, I am helping the world, I am uplifting the world, I am great and world is lesser than me, then it becomes a different action. So how this upasana is done, what are the different ways in which these Mahatmas, they worship me, that is now explained in the next verse, 15th verse. Jnana yagnena chapyanne yajanto mam upasate ekatvena prathatvena bahudha vishvato mukham Jnana yajnena chapyanne yajanto mam upasate. Jnana yajnena cha api anne mam upasate. Others means here in the previous verse he has talked about kirtan and dhrida vrata and namaskar, and still other Mahatmas, they worship me, they do my upasana. How? Jnana yajnena, by jnana yajna. Jnana yajna means by knowledge itself becomes the upasana. Knowledge itself is Bhagwan's upasana. By knowing and gaining the wisdom about the nature of God, itself becomes his upasana. The more and more we understand the nature of God, the more we feel closer to him. The more we understand, the more we feel closer to him. So jnana itself becomes upasana. The more we are ignorant, the more we feel ourselves to be far away from that divinity. In fact, all our sorrow and pain is because of our misunderstanding that we are away from that divinity. And more we gain the wisdom, we feel that closeness. Then physical distance doesn't matter, time doesn't matter, place doesn't matter. One feels one's closeness to God. So jnana yajna, therefore in our mission also, our Pujya Gurudev has given lot of stress to this jnana yajna, study of the scriptures. The scriptures talk about the nature of that supreme divinity. So more we understand, more we feel closer to God. Without understanding, if we keep doing something or keep some different attitude and all, then we remain, the feeling of separateness continues to be there. But as we gain understanding, we feel more and more close. So knowledge itself is yajna. Yajna doesn't mean that we have to invoke the fire and offer the ahutis and all, but knowledge itself is yajna. Therefore, this pravachan malas are also called jnana yajna, Gita jnana yajna. That is the phrase our Pujya Gurudev, he started using it. So Gita jnana yajna, knowledge of Gita itself a yajna in which we sacrifice our ignorance, we sacrifice our foolishness and gain that purity and gain that understanding by which we come to realize our oneness with God. That becomes upasana. our Swamiji gives very beautiful example. It's like fire. If there is a fire and a wood is there, which is wet, soaked in water. So if that wood is placed near that fire, first all the water goes away, the wood starts becoming more and more dry, and then it starts becoming hot, and maybe some smoke and all start coming out, and suddenly it catches fire. So what the wood is doing is called upasana. So wood is coming close to that fire, and being close to the fire itself removes all its water. And slowly the heat comes. And then at one particular moment, suddenly the wood catches fire. Then you cannot differentiate between the wood, that fire, which is away, and this wood which has caught fire. Both of them have become one. Similarly, with our mind, with our feelings, with our understanding, we should feel our closeness with God. If this continues, suddenly one will gain that realization that I am God. Shivoham, Shivoham. Chidananda Rupa, Shivoham, Shivoham. In the beginning, we might feel one's difference, that I am different and God is different. And suddenly, one will come to realize that there is no difference. I and God are one. Just as the wave which is meditating on that ocean. So I and the ocean are one. It's trying to remain more and more close to the ocean. And suddenly it realizes that I am always in the ocean, and myself and ocean are one only. As water, I alone am there. Everything exists in me. So this is a great upasana, which is jnana yajna. And this also, one does it with little different attitude. The highest attitude is ekatvena. Ekatvena, with the understanding that there is only one supreme reality, and that am I. This knowledge, that there is only that one Brahma, and that Brahma am I. With the attitude of oneness, with this knowledge of oneness, one does upasana of that supreme reality. This knowledge itself becomes the upasana. This is the highest. That there is no difference. That the essence in me and the essence in this world is all one, expression of that one supreme reality alone. Ekatva it is called. Ekatvena. Aham Brahmasmi. That I am that Brahma, and I alone am this world, and I alone am everything. Doesn't allow any difference to enter. So no different gods, no different beings, no different worlds, no different results, only I alone am. The highest, upasana, as indicated in the Upanishads also, of this oneness, some great seekers who have the proper qualification, they follow this. Others, pruthatvena. Pruthatvena means they also understand that oneness, but they see that oneness in different beings and different expressions of God, as Brahma, Vishnu, Mahesh, Indra, Rama, Krishna, Shiva, Ganesh. All these various expressions of God are there. They worship the various expressions, but they also know that one supreme reality is there in all of them. So they bow down to Lord Shiva, they do namaskar to Lord Vishnu, they do namaskar to other expressions of their divinity, knowing that it is only one reality expressing in all this prathak prathak, different forms and names. There's only one divinity which express. This also very important and what you call good attitude. Because many times a person has got this attitude that this God is different, other God is different. Then that type of attitude is not proper. It creates a division in our mind, and it is not the proper understanding of the supreme reality. So it is one only. We may like a particular form of God, but it is everyone is same. All are same. All are one. One may like to worship God in the form of Krishna. Others may like to worship God in the form of Rama or in the form of Shiva. Or someone may like to worship him as the sun and the moon, or like the mountain, or like the river, whatever be the form. But one should understand in all these forms there is only one supreme reality which expresses. So that's called prathakttvena, with the taking support of different forms, but worshipping that one God. Or the third type, one can worship the entire world as God. Bahudha vishvato mukham. Knowing that God alone is there in this entire world. Bahudha vishvato mukham. He alone has got his mukha, his face everywhere. See, we have our face at only one place. If we want to look at someone, then we have to look at his face. Sometimes that person turns his face, so we can't look, we have to go around and look at that person. But God has got his face everywhere. Vishvato mukham. His mukha, his face is everywhere. Means wherever you look, you are looking at God. Whatever you see, you are seeing his face. Whatever name you are chanting his name. Whatever form you are seeing his form. So seeing him everywhere, one worships. Like Tulsidas ji has written in Ramayana, he says, Siya Ramamay Saba Jaga Jani. He says the whole world, I understand the whole world as Siya Ram. So Siya Ramamay Saba Jaga Jani, Karahu Pranam Jori Juga Pani. So I do namaskar to the entire world, seeing it as Siya Ram only. Because I don't have to go to a particular place to see Siya Ram. I don't have to look in a particular direction to see God. I don't have to look at a particular form to look at God. I don't have to be in a particular time, a Shubha Muhurta, to look at God. He is everywhere. He is in Purnima also, he is on Amavasya day also. He is there on Ekadashi also. He is there in every place. He is there in Haridwar, Rishikesh also, and in where? Karol Bagh also. He is there in every form. He is there in the form of beautiful Bhagwan Krishna also, and he alone is there in the form of a donkey also. A cat, a rat, a mouse, a machar. All these are different expressions of the same God. But for that we should have the vision. We should have the proper attitude. Those who have a lesser understanding requires God to be imagined and seen in a particular form, because it becomes difficult. You can't imagine God to be donkey and all. कैसे होगा? आप भगवान को donkey बोलते हैं, शर्म नहीं आती आपको? So we feel little hesitant. But really speaking, Bhagwan is in the form of donkey also. Every form. Therefore, in our scriptures we have Hanumanji is in the form of monkey. Ganesh Bhagwan, half elephant, half human being. All forms are the forms of God. We should be able to look. Because divinity is beyond that form, is expressing through that form. It's like beauty. Beauty can be anywhere. As it says, beauty lies in the eyes of the beholder. If I have beauty in my eyes, I can look anywhere and see that beauty. If the beauty is not in my eyes, I cannot see beauty in the most beautiful thing also. Similarly, divinity lies in the eyes of the beholder, you can say. Just little modification. So if I have that divinity in my eyes, wherever I look, I see that divinity. If it is not, and divinity comes in my eyes through knowledge. Knowledge gives us vision. Knowledge gives us a way of looking. If I have a scientific knowledge, I look at the world and I see all the scientific things, structures and all, atoms, molecules. If I have the musical knowledge, I get the vision, I get the ability to hear and understand music. Similarly, if I have the understanding of divinity in my heart, in my intellect, I get the vision to see God. I get the ears to hear God. I get the nose to smell God. I get the touch to skin to touch God and understand His presence everywhere. So that is upasana. That is feeling close to God. That is understanding that He is very close to us. And that is what we have to do as a practice. We have to take up even any object and feel the presence of God. That is there. In the form of this petal also, it is God alone is there. So soft and so nice. But so rough and so not nice is also God. So ekatvena pratatvena bahudha vishvato mukham mam upasate, they worship me alone. Ekatvena also they worship you, yes. Pratatvena also they worship you, yes. If they are worshipping Shiva or they were worshipping Rama or they are worshipping any other gods of the world, so many gods are there. I am just talking about Indian gods. Indian gods means what we have been learning, but there are so many gods all over the world. So many variety of them are there. Each more interesting than the other. Bhagavan says, all of them are worshipping me only. It doesn't matter. In future, some new gods might come. Who knows? Those are also, they are also worshipping me. It doesn't matter. The form, the name. So, mam upasate, ekatvena, pratatvena, bahudha vishvato mukham. So question is, how come even though they are worshipping the different through different forms and through this world, how come they are worshipping you only? That Bhagavan explains in more details in the next verse. He says, I alone am there everywhere. He says, aham kraturaham yajnaha Swadhaham aushadham mantrohamahame vajyam aham agniraham hutam aham kraturaham yajnaha swadhaham aushadham mantrohamahame vajyam aham agniraham hutam. Bhagavan says, he gives an example of a yajna wherein everything is I myself. I alone am everywhere. Aham kratuhu, I am that kratu. Kratu is also a type of yajna which is indicated in our scriptures in the Vedas. Shrauta karma. And yajna is also yajna, which is also indicated in our Smriti Granthas. So a fire is invoked and we offer the various havis and all, ghee and other samugris. This is a type of worship wherein we invoke the presence of God in fire. That yajna kunda is also made in a particular way. So it has got its own structure, the number of bricks to be used, and the way it should be made, and the direction. So many technical details are there. And then the fire, the type of wood to be used, the type of samugris to be used, the time of the day one should perform it, and all those various things are there. So we kindle the fire, invoke the presence of God, and offer the various havis, the various samagris into it, and chant some mantra. So Bhagavan just takes this as an example, and he says, in all the worships, whatever type of worship you do, I alone am there. I alone am the altar. I alone am the material which you use to do the puja. I alone am the one who is performing the puja, and I alone am the result of the puja. I alone am the mantra also. That's what is conveyed in this shloka, that aham kratuhu, I am the kratu, the yajna, and aham yajnaha, I am this yajna also, the smarta yajna, which is mentioned in the smritis. Then swadha aham. See, in some yajna we offer the offering, we give it to our forefathers, those who are dead and gone, to other lokas, pitrulok and other lokas. Sometimes the offering, one does some special puja or yajna and give the offering to them. That offering is called, when we give it, is called swadha. Bhagavan says, I alone am that swadha also. You are giving this to your forefathers, that also comes to me. Acha. Whatever you do, ultimately it comes to me only. You worship this God and that God, it comes to me. All your worship comes to me, because I alone am there. So aham kratuhu, aham yajnaha, swadha aham aushadham. All the food, aushad is the food which we eat, the vanaspati, the plants and herbs, or other food which we eat, or that the material which we offer in the fire for the sacrifice. Bhagavan says that is also I myself. I am that. What about the mantras which we chant? We chant various mantras and perform the yajna. So Bhagavan says, like we chant the Mahamrityunjay mantra, Om Trembakam Yajamahe Sugandhim Pushtivardhanam Urvarukamiva Bandhanan Mrityor Mokshi Yamamruta Ataswaha. We say Swaha, and we offer the all the samagris. So that mantra also Bhagavan says, I am the mantra. Mantra means mananat trayate, which helps us, which protects us when we contemplate on it, is called mantra. So all the words and the sentences of our scriptures or shlokas and all, they are like mantra. They help us, they guide us, they protect us, but we have to contemplate upon them. Then only their meaning